All right. So thank you everybody for coming. My name is Chelsea Jander and I'll be your host for this evening. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce a special guest from the Board of Supervisors who will share opening remarks. Chair Fletcher, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chelsea. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone in our county parks department and what you do each and every single day. There's such amazing resources and treasures throughout San Diego County, and Heritage Park is really unique. It's one of our county parks that is inside the incorporated city of San Diego. But there's a lot of unique features that make Heritage Park so special. The city's first synagogue, Temple Beth Israel, the incredible restored Victorian homes that really demonstrate and show what San Diego looked like at that point in time in our history. The preservation that are part of our shared history. The Edward Wilkinson Bushy Head, who marched in the Trail of Tears. The cousin of General Sherman, a Civil War hero, is there. The beautiful grassy spaces to enjoy, the picnic, the time out there. I've always enjoyed Heritage Park, but I've always thought that there was an opportunity to do significantly more and to really renovate and invest, preserving the historic exteriors and the architecture, but try to get all these homes back to a place where we can use them and visitors can come and be a part, and San Diegans can really enjoy the area. Additionally, we're going to look for what opportunities there are to activate some of the public space. It's a wonderful locations for weddings or other types of things. And so I know the county's engaged in community outreach. We want to hear input. We want to get feedback. We want to talk about these proposed changes, and we want to really invest in taking Heritage Park to the next level and really bringing it on par with so many of our wonderful assets and resources throughout. And so I want to thank the entire parks team and everyone and all the members of the community who are here. I know you care a lot about your community, your open spaces, and how we do things in a way that's mindful of community input. So grateful for everyone who's participating. I'm excited to watch tonight's proceedings and really excited to see where we can get with Heritage Park.
Great. Thank you so much, Chair Fletcher, for those words. I'll go ahead and just kick us off with the presentation now. All right, so as a reminder, my name is Chelsea Jander, Senior Park Project Manager. I'm from the Development Division of the Department of Parks and Recreation. With me this evening, we have a team from the Development, Operations, and Resource Management Divisions. The Department of Parks and Recreation, also known as DPR, built Heritage Park in 1971 with community support. Over the next decade, we saved 7 Victorian buildings from being demolished in other parts of the city. We brought those to the park, creating an 1880s style Victorian preserve. Today, the park serves as an amenity for residents and visitors to enjoy. DPR hosts events including outdoor movies. The park's tea house has daily visitors, and the temple and back lawn are a popular venue for weddings. While the Sunless Cottage, McConaughey House, and Temple are actively used, 4 of the buildings are not used at this time. We're reaching out to you today to show our progress on the project and hear your thoughts. Next, I'll just walk through some housekeeping items, and then we'll get started on the project update. All right, so we are using the Zoom webinar platform, so you won't have a microphone or camera access, but you will be able to write in with your questions or comments using the Q&A feature. Just click the Q&A icon in your toolbar and type in your question. We'll either respond directly in the answer section, or we'll do our best to address your comment in the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. You may also want to write down the phone number and meeting ID number on the screen. You can use this to call in at any point if you lose connection during the meeting. A recorded version will also be available online after the presentation is completed. We'll share the link at the end of the presentation of where it will be, and we'll post it to the project webpage later this week. All right, if you are on a mobile device, the Q&A feature is located on the bottom right of your screen. Okay, so we're jumping into the project now. So a quick project timeline is background of where we've been is the County Board of Supervisors directed DPR to renovate the interiors of the unused buildings of Heritage Park to create a beautiful historic inn. There will also be renovations to the existing public restrooms at Sunless Cottage and improvements and new amenities to the outdoor spaces of the park. We started the project last fall with a project kickoff and public outreach. We had a design outreach meeting in February where we recapped the public feedback from the November meeting, shared concept designs for the outdoor areas, and then conducted another survey about the proposed designs. This brings us to our third public outreach meeting, where we are tonight sharing on what the team has been working on, including the concept design and interior programming. We expect to complete designs this winter or early 2023 and be ready for a construction start this upcoming spring. We also have a board hearing coming up on December 14th, where DPR is recommending that the Board of Supervisors provides the county the authority to advertise and award a construction contract. So we'll jump into the overall overview of the scope. In light of the original intention of the park to activate and use the buildings, there are three main components of the project. The first is improving and adding amenities to the outdoor areas of the park. The second, renovating the interiors of 4 houses to be used for overnight accommodations. And then the third is improving the existing public restrooms and park office at Sunless Cottage. So a quick recap on where we're at with the public outreach. So we held our first pair of public meetings on November 3rd and 4th last year, received a lot of great feedback from everyone, and we posted a survey and received 127 responses. Some of the key comments we heard in that meeting and from that survey were that it's important to preserve historic character and public access of the park. There was an interest to support and expand access of the interiors to one or more of the Victorian era homes. It was also important to expand the green space with picnic areas, informal gathering spaces, and possible play zones. We also heard that there was little interest in a performance venue with amplified sound, and we'll continue to adhere to that existing noise ordinance. With input from the meetings and the survey, we got started on our concept designs, and then February 9th, we held a virtual meeting to share the concept plan options. We conducted a survey and 57 people participated, and we'll jump into the survey results now. All right, so this is the first concept. It's called Lone Oak Tree. This concept would formalize the existing use of the back lawn by creating an ADA accessible concrete pathway and plaza. The plaza could seat approximately 55 people. This space is meant to function for both outdoor meetings and continue as a wedding venue as the existing pergola has for years. When individually voting on this concept though, 23% of survey respondents liked this concept. The highest ranking amenities included large and ornamental trees, walking path, and pergola renovation. Up next is the tree oval. It takes a more formal approach with a new oval concrete pathway with the addition of the ornamental trees around the back lawn area. Similar to the previous concept design, this design provides an ADA accessible plaza with concrete seat walls that seats approximately 60 people. Only 19% of the survey respondents liked this concept, but some of the highest ranking amenities were similar to the first concept, but bench seating was also included in that list. The third concept is called Canyon Garden. The design proposes an outdoor classroom that would be closer to the south end of the park. A new concrete walking path curves around the perimeter of the lawn with an added Victorian era inspired plantings and ornamental trees. The existing pergola would also be renovated in this concept design. This concept design received the most positive response. 41% of survey respondents liked this concept. Highest ranking amenities were similar to the first two. However, survey respondents also liked the overall look and feel. So we took the survey, we took the feedback from the survey and developed an overall concept plan. Pergola renovation is also included in the final concept plan here. The outdoor classroom will seat 100 people, up to 100 people, excuse me, and the presenter will have their back to the canyon to minimize noise levels around the surrounding homes. Adding trees and vegetation around the outdoor classroom will also help buffer and absorb noise as well. So we are still refining that concept plan for the outdoor classroom area. And this overall view shows the first version of the design that integrates the public comments. We are currently refining and further developing this concept and working to finalize the concept as you see here. So here's just a quick overview of the concept. So we've looked at the back lawn renovations in detail at this point, but we also will be adding 2 drinking fountains, one in the back lawn and then one next to the Scentless Cottage. The improved pergola will also be close to the existing location. We'll also be adding in some ADA parking that's included here to bring the parking lot up to current building codes. And then we'll also be adding in some ornamental fences, benches, and landscaping. We'll review a rendering of the landscaping next. So here's an example of what the ornamental gardens may look like. Here's the before, and here's the after. We hope that by extending the planting beds all the way to the walkway that we can provide screening to the structures while also enhancing the experience for park users on the main walkway. All right, next we're going to be diving into the programming of the interior of the buildings, starting furthest west, and then we'll travel east and then south, so around the loop. First up is Scentless Cottage. The uses of this building will stay substantially the same. However, the project will renovate the public restrooms, improve the office space, and increase the functionality of the interpretive room by also having the option for the room to function as a small public meeting space when needed. Next, we have the Sherman Gilbert House. The programming will have 1 ADA accessible king room, along with 3 king rooms and 2 suites. For Bushy Head House, we have 4 king rooms, 1 double queen room, and 1 suite. Now, Christian House will serve as the main house. We heard you that having a publicly available space is important. So we just dedicated a large portion of the ground floor of the Christian House to include a lobby, check-in space, and community meeting room. We'll share a rendering of this space in a few slides. But in this building, we have guest rooms for 4 king rooms and 1 ADA accessible king room. Last building that we'll cover today is the Burton House. We will have 4 king rooms and 1 suite for the guest rooms in this structure. So a quick overview of the total programming for all of the overnight accommodations. We have 22 total guest rooms, 1 double queen, 15 kings, 2 ADA kings, and 4 suites. So one of the other aspects that we heard is that the interior design should be inspired by the Victorian era. We wanted to include those elements here while also appealing to the current overnight accommodations market by having the materials be modern. This also allows the project to meet all current building requirements, including fire safety. So here's a sample of one of the guest rooms with some of the proposed furnishings. You can see how the space may be used. Some modern components, but we're looking on focusing on the inspired by Victorian era look here. Up next is a rendering of a private bathroom. The use of the mixed materials allows for a modern feel while also having inspired by Victorian vanity and a mirror to elevate the room. And lastly, here's the lobby rendering, walking right into the Christian House. We're looking at preserving the existing fireplace mantle, and we'll also have some chairs in here for guests or day use visitors. The historic pocket doors will be preserved, and we're planning on restoring the functionality of those. And then as you go through those pocket doors, that's where the check-in area is proposed to be. Now down the hall and to the right is where the community meeting space area is. All right, so that brings us back to our final concept plan and culmination of the presentation. That was a lot of information, but I'm going to recap the next steps and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. So we're at the design outreach public meeting now, and then next month there's going to be a Board of Supervisors hearing on December 14th. At this meeting, DPR is recommending that the Board of Supervisors provides the county with the authority to advertise and award a construction contract. After that, we'll finalize our design and go through the procurement process to start construction. For those that received a mailer for this meeting, you can anticipate receiving another flyer before we start construction. And if you'd like to be added to that we'll jump into my contact information next. So time to hear your thoughts. Post your questions and your questions and comments in the Q&A box at the top of the screen. If you have any additional comments that you don't want to cover today, that's totally fine. You can reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen. If you would like to receive future project updates via email, also reach out to me. And we will also post this recorded public meeting video on the park website, which is on this web page, or it's linked here. And then we will post that link in the chat as well. So as a reminder, we're using the webinar platform, so you won't have a microphone or camera access, but you will be able to write in with your questions or comments using the Q&A feature. Just click on the Q&A icon in your toolbar and type in your question. With that, I'd like to open it up for questions and turn things over to Jessica Geisler, who will help moderate the Q&A session.
Hi there, thank you, Chelsea. And thank you to everybody who's joined us this evening. We are so excited about this project and how much we've moved forward even since the last public meeting. I hope you enjoyed looking at the different images that we shared of the different concept plans and the one that received the most love online and via our survey. And then it sounds like we already have some interesting questions about just the general layout. So I appreciate the enthusiasm. Thank you so much for those who are using the Q&A pane, and we'll kind of take it from here. We did have one question a little earlier, and that was related to parking. So I wanted to real quick just jump over to operations, since that's outside of Chelsea's area. She's more the development side of things. Christine, would you be able to talk about how many parking spots are currently on site and the relationships we have with other organizations close by?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Christine Lafontant. I'm the region manager for this location. And the parking, we have 30 spots. You can see it in the concept plan right there. Thank you, Chelsea. There's 30 spots there. And then across the street at the Best Western, we have an additional 41 spots. And so our plan is to leave the 30 spots that are at the park for day use visitors. And then the guests for the inn would park across the street at the Best Western.
Great, thank you. And I know whenever we host special events at this property specifically, we encourage public transit, just knowing that that trolley is right there. It's a great spot to hop on public transit. So that's certainly encouraged, and it will be encouraged in future communications as we work with different people to rent these spaces. Jeffy, thank you for Jeffrey, thank you for your comments. We agree, these are some really beautiful layouts. Cannot wait to see them come to fruition. This is a great question we have coming through right now. Who's going to be administering these accommodations? And since I have Christine here, would you like to talk about operations of these new properties?
Absolutely. We are working. The answer is unknown. We're not sure yet. We're going to be both issuing an RFP for a lease. That's a request for proposals to see if there's any organizations, any businesses, companies that are interested in managing this. And also at the same time, the county is going to be putting together a plan to manage the facility. And then we're going to look at both of them side by side and see which one is the best value for the county and for the facility.
Great, thanks, Christine. Okay, we had a question earlier about the environmental impact studies that take place for properties like this and whenever we do major renovations. Emily, I don't know if you have any info you'd like to share with the group of just about kind of the environmental processes that take place?
Yeah, absolutely. So this project did go through CEQA analysis. The environmental document that was prepared is actually an addendum to the previously certified negative declaration document. So I think that answers the question. It isn't a full environmental impact report as far as the scale, but CEQA compliance was conducted for this project. Thanks.
Perfect. And if people had more questions about that, would they be able to find the information up on our website, stparks.org?
Sure. Yeah. And then the environmental document will be circulated when this project goes to the board in December.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so we have a question related to the design plan. This one's coming from Tracy. Can we cover the reasoning behind the amphitheater? What type of events are used for that space do you envision? So I'll start this one with Chelsea, and Christine may want to jump in as well.
That's exactly right. So yeah, the amphitheater is really, it's not an amphitheater, it's really an outdoor classroom. There's not going to be it's just going to be a very small space, seating up to 100 people. But the idea is that we can create a gathering space for communities, for conferences, if people would like to use it as part of their wedding venue celebrations. That's an option. It's really just an opportunity to take advantage of the great weather that we have in San Diego, and create an outdoor space where a larger group could gather. And also it's still compliant with the we have events at the Heritage Park currently, and we have a maximum capacity of 200 people. So we're still kind of in line with what the existing use is for that, but it's really just an opportunity to give an outdoor gathering space, an outdoor classroom that we can accommodate a couple of extra people. And then Christine, did you want to jump in on the second part of that question, which is just about programming, if there's anything else you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, like you said, it was it's the look is kind of an outdoor classroom. So we we envision that it'll be either rented out, or we'll use it for internal meetings, or it can be for educational activities that youth education activities. We have tons of programs that the department does, and so this will be a great venue for us to provide those.
Great, thank you. That would be a wonderful spot for Hawktober. For those of you who aren't familiar with our Hawktober celebration, we celebrate our local birds of prey with our animal ambassadors, and we take them on tour to different parks. So we have free events across San Diego in outdoor spaces like this. So it's just one example of a lot of the really cool free programming that we can offer to folks who are interested. So thank you for that. Clifford had a comment about chat. Yes, chat is disabled. We found it to be very distracting during the meeting, but the Q&A is open. So if you want to comment, provide any questions, use that Q&A pane and we'll respond to them. That way we also have a full recording of everything that happened during the meeting, and we can reply afterward in case we missed something. All right, so Christine, the relationship we have with Best Western, can you explain a little more about how that relationship got started?
Yes, actually, where the Best Western is, where that parking is, it's owned by the county, and Best Western leases it out. And so some of the parking spots are theirs, and they remain, and 41 of them remain attached to the county park. If you go there today, you'll see a sign that says Heritage Park parking only. So it's an ongoing lease that we have with that company, with Pacific Hospitality.
All right. So Chelsea, this next question is for you. What will the future activity of the McConaughey House be?
That's actually mine.
Oh, all right, there we go.
There's also a lease in place with the tea house for the tea house, the Coral Tree Tea House that is at the McConaughey House. So it will remain that way. That lease is ongoing. So that is not one of the houses that is being renovated under this project. So that will remain the same.
I can also add into that is that the McConaughey House is we are not going to be impacting the operations of the facility during construction. So look for any updates directly with the tea house.
All right, thank you. All right, we have a couple of questions about the outdoor classroom area. One of them, do we have maximum volume standards and how would we be enforcing that? So I'll hand that one back to Christine.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? I was
Sure.
looking at other questions, yeah.
Yep, no problem. So what will the maximum volume be in that outdoor classroom, and how is that enforced?
It is continuing. It is something that we are doing right now, and the decibel levels are between 7 and 7 is 55 levels at the property line, so at the sidewalk, 55 decibels, and 50 after 10 p.m. So I'm sorry, from 7 to 10 p.m. So we will continue to enforce that as we have with events with our staff. They have handheld decibel readers, and they check every, we have checks like every half an hour if there's music playing, and we communicate with whoever's there and let them know. It's also in our agreements that people sign when they rent out the facility. So that is the law, the noise ordinance. So we will continue to enforce that as we have been.
All right. I have another question related to that area. Tracy likes the idea of the community space and is asking if it's at no cost or if there's gonna be a charge for it. My understanding is day use, right? So everything is open to the public unless rented for a private event. But Christine, could you confirm that?
It's typically we have there, the area, if somebody's just kind of visiting and walking past, it's open to the public. Once you have a gathering and it's more formal, then they might choose to have a reservation. We will be reserving the area, and that way it's exclusive use. So it just depends what the need is, right? And if it's just a community, a quick, some folks gathering for lunch over there, then that'll be just open to the public.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Okay, John is asking if there's going to be an effort by the project to cut back some of the brush in the canyon to help mitigate the living encampments that are just east of the canyon edge. In terms of like brush mitigation, would that be an operations question, or are we looking at development for that?
I can jump in and just clarify that the brush management is not part of this project specifically. However, we are hoping that the activation of the park, right, by bringing in more, by bringing in the activity of the overnight accommodations, that we're hoping that kind of formalizes that this is a public space for everybody. I can't speak specifically to kind of the current conditions there, but if anyone on operations wants to jump in, otherwise we can follow up, via email. And if that person wants to drop their email, and we can follow up as well.
I think Ranger Sam might be able to help us out here. So Ranger Sam oversees this property in another, and he's got a team of staff that patrol the park and also respond to any comments or questions or concerns that come in to us from park visitors. So I'll hand it over to Sam to talk a little bit about how he manages that.
Sure. Awesome. So yeah, to answer the question, ongoing maintenance and brush management along with landscaping is still going to remain with the park operations. So any concerns or issues or anything from the community that needs to be brought up currently or even in the future going forward, both during construction or afterwards, can be brought directly to park staff, and we'll work diligently to resolve those. So I hope that answers the question.
And I would just encourage you to, if you ever see something that doesn't look right or seem suspect, please let park staff know. We're there, we're ready to answer and to respond. But we also count on our park visitors to let us know if they see something that looks out of place. So let us know. Absolutely. We've got phone numbers posted in our kiosk sign, and you can almost always see a staff member in uniform on this property and the neighboring property, Waterfront Park. Okay, so this question is related to the lawn and the actual construction of the lawn. This one's coming from Tracy. Will the the outdoor classroom encroach on that current lawn, or will it be dug into the hill? So Chelsea.
Yeah, I can take this one. So it's a little bit of both. So one thing that we did is we wanted to keep that bench seating that was really popular from the survey. And so what we're going to do is we're going to build into the hillside a bit here. That's closest to Juan Street. And so we'll build into that hillside and have some of that seating here. But then we'll also have, this is proposed to be decomposed granite. So compact but natural material down here. And this is where you can have tables and chairs as well, or it can be more of a flex space if needed. So it's a little bit of both. And you can see how it will go into the back lawn a little bit. But the back lawn will definitely still be open and functional for all of that awesome picnic gatherings and such.
Great, thank you. And while I have you, Chelsea, can you go back to kind of the initial ideas here to renovate Heritage County Park? What was sort of the main goal behind that, taking a look at the property and making those slight changes for San Diegans?
Sure. So the park was established in 1971 with the intention of activating the space and using the buildings. And so that was always kind of the intention around the establishment of the park. And so, yeah, so we are, activating the buildings now. It's taken a little bit just because of the current building codes and making sure that all of the, the building codes are followed, and that we're also up to those kind of modern overnight accommodations standards. So does that answer the question, Jessica?
I think so. I think also, you mentioned earlier that you're taking note of plants and fencing and other design elements that would really be true to the existing heritage park. So we're not pulling away from what's there. We're actually just accentuating the historic property itself, and then making more conversational spaces kind of around it without making it a big, hub for the local community. It would still remain a small park.
That's correct. Yeah. And so we won't be actually modifying any of the exteriors of the structures. So that will still remain the same. We're just going to be enhancing that landscape and the outdoor classroom area and pergola, kind of some of the stuff that you see highlighted here. That's the stuff that you're going to see changing. And it's just going to really enhance kind of what's already existing, like you were mentioning, Jessica.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Mark has some great questions here. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what will be the pricing for the rooms on site. Will middle class be able to afford this, as well as the meeting rooms? And my understanding is pricing is usually determined after the property is officially open. But Christine, just based on past things that we've opened, when do we typically establish pricing for I guess revenue generating locations like this?
So we've been actually researching the current market in the area, and we're looking at similar types of hotels or guest rooms that they're historic. We're looking at what's in the area for, if it's a 3 or 2.5 star. That's the part that we don't know yet. Like, what is this going to be? If it's going to be a 5, is it a 4-star or a 3-star? And so then the pricing will be dependent on that. And we will go with most likely with market pricing, what is kind of an average for this type of facility in the area, and then it'll fluctuate based on the market and on high and low seasons.
Great, thanks, Christine. And then this park is scheduled to be opened again when, Chelsea?
Sorry, I lost my mute button for a second. Yeah, so we are looking at finalizing our construction documents, all of our plans and things early 2023, and then really jumping into the procurement and construction if approved by the Board of Supervisors. But we're looking at possibly starting construction in the spring, and that'll take about a 12-month period, and going through spring of 2024.
Got it. Okay, so we'd probably have a better idea of pricing and all of that in a little time from now. So spring 2024 is kind of what we're looking at for more clarification there.
And if anyone would like to be a part of the email listserv, or would like to receive kind of any of those updates, feel free to reach out to me. Let me switch the slide, but you can feel free to send me an email and I'll add you to that email listserv, and we'll keep you updated on that.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so if somebody were to book a special event on site, is it possible to reserve any of the parking for that special event? Christine.
As of now, we don't have reservable parking at this location. It's going to depend on the programming plan and how we move forward. But right now, the parking is only for Heritage Park use. So I know that I've seen questions about like, hey, there's not enough parking here. And it's because people take advantage of it and park there and then walk over somewhere else, maybe to the restaurants or to the state park. But we will have, this is something that, again, it's still part of the plan, what needs to get planned out, but that we will have a better handle on the parking and making sure that only the guests and that the guests and the park visitors are the ones using our parking lots.
All right, thank you. So any other changes to parking lots, potentially making a larger sign for where the reserved parking is for Heritage, that is kind of all in the works, but as we get closer toward the end of construction?
Yes,
And-
and I saw that parking about signage, and that's a great idea. We should have a bigger sign over there at the Best Western to do that.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so looking at the vegetation that we're going to be planting on site, will that landscaping use less water? Great question, Sharon. I will hand that to Chelsea.
Sure. So currently there's a lot of the green lawn area that we'd be removing in sections and then replacing with vegetation, some larger, more hardy plantings that you would kind of fill out the space a little bit better. And so, we always, as Parks and Rec, always look to use our water wisely. And so we have specific irrigation controllers that help us make sure that we are, using the water wisely and not necessarily going to be watering, for example, today or yesterday when it was raining. So we do look at that. And then to note specifically on the vegetation, so there was a large interest in having ornamental trees, and ornamental trees are not necessarily native. So we would have to look at the irrigation uses specifically for the proposed plantings. And we'll be able to dive into those details a little bit more once we get further along in design. So if you'd like a specific follow-up on that, you can feel free to drop your email in the Q&A box, and I can follow up with you once we get further along in the design process.
Cool. Thanks, Chelsea. Okay, so Patricia here had a comment about the Old Time Chamber, the Boosters of Old Town, and the Old Town Foundation being hosts through State Parks for the ongoing 4th grade program with San Diego Unified, and that they've had that partnership for over 2 decades, which is just fantastic. And Patricia's asking how we'll embrace that opportunity to include the 4th grade program as a continuous program with those other stakeholders. That is a wonderful question. We actually have quite a few programs right now with 4th graders through our Discovery Education program, where we bring rangers out to schools, and then we actually bring the kids out to the park to participate in volunteer activities and meet live critters and all kinds of good things. So we will absolutely touch base with you. I know Sam is on this meeting here, and I'm sure he's taking note of any new ways where we can connect with local students and participate in any special events that are taking place, especially those that are close to or on our park property. So thank you for that. All right, Patricia also asked about security on site. So maybe this is a question for Christine or Sam, but can you differentiate between security during park hours and off hours?
Yeah, so currently at the park, we typically have one staff during the day and the daytime shift, and at night it's just open. I mean, the park is closed as sunrise to sunset park. But we will be that as far as the security overnight with the new project, that's still to be determined. We'll see if we're going to be hiring security guards to patrol the property overnight, or if it's going to be, if we're going to have staff that's there overnight, and then they'll have more eyes on the property as well. So again, this is still part of that proposal, and so we are not. That's to be determined. But we understand that it's a need and that it's an important need for the facility.
Great. Okay, and Patricia's also asking if there's going to be consideration for after hours parking or for events that are happening or scheduled for the community. So similar to what Caltrans is offering in after hours parking and on the weekends for visitors and tourists or for residents. So, okay, so refresh my memory, Christine, do we close the gate after the park officially closes?
No, it doesn't close. There's no gate there.
Okay,
It was just
so if somebody were parked there after hours, the car would still be.
It would, but technically it's only for the park that parking is only for park visitors.
Got it.
So, we're not out there giving people tickets. We don't have citation powers, but SDPD could, because it's only for that use.
Okay, so maybe a good recommendation for that would be just to find street parking or to park in the trolley lot, which is a few blocks away, but is open 24 hours.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so looking at the Christian house, question from Tracy is, will it only be one room, and how big is it going to be? and what is the reasoning behind just having that one room when the community could potentially use more space? So I'm going to hand this one to Chelsea, because she knows the inside and outside of all these rooms, and the different indoor and outdoor locations where groups can meet.
All right, yeah, so with this one specifically, so I wanted to clarify, so this is a community room that's open to the public. I wasn't sure what the definition of community here was. So clarification is that the lobby is open to the public as well as the check-in area. And then they're down the hall and to the right, as you see in this picture, that is where we're proposing to have a community space that it will be like a small flexible space. So you can set it up in presentation mode or as like a little bit of a boardroom setting. But we'll also have looking at putting in some interpretive components on the wall. So it can be used when it's not being rented out. It can be used for, just coming in and using, visiting the space during day use. And then really what we wanted to do is for the community room is to also have the outdoor area be a community room. So that's what we really focused on for the design, was to have the outdoor space. Let's see if I can pull it up. The outdoor space function as that community room as well. So we won't just have one room, right? We'll have an outdoor room as well. And so that's what we're trying to do with some of the building into some of that back lawn, but also into that hillside and creating a little bit of what would feel like a room with the vegetation kind of coming up around that space. So that was kind of the intention around the design part, so that we have not just indoor spaces, but we also have outdoor spaces that function like rooms.
Okay, and I know also the temple is on site, and that's been a popular place that people have rented for weddings and other special celebrations. So that would be an additional indoor space if we had the option. But I hear you, Chelsea. It's just such a beautiful park, and it's usually so nice outside. It's great to be able to take advantage of an outdoor space as well as an indoor space. So, okay, so the amphitheater or the outdoor classroom itself, can you talk about, are we adding any elevations to it?
So that is the plan, is to have, so what I think the person is asking is like that rendering look that we had for the landscaping. Let me see if I can find that slide. But yes, the idea is that we would develop, sorry, too many buttons. Develop that space to have a rendering that would look like this, so that we can have a better understanding of what that physical presence would look like. And we're still, like I mentioned, we're still in the development and design phase of the project. So if you are interested in seeing that, sorry, I feel like a little bit of a broken record, but drop your email into the Q&A and I can follow up with you directly on that.
Great, thanks, Chelsea. Okay, so Mark is asking about if we have any other parks that have been developed for private commercial enterprise and what the profits are used for. And real quick, I just want to say we have a lot of park properties. We actually have 156, I believe, and a lot of them have different opportunities for people to rent a small space if they'd like to. So we'll have celebrations of life, we'll have small weddings, we might have a birthday party. We've got picnic spaces, but at the end of the day, these parks are for the people. They're for the public to enjoy. So unless they're privately booked, they are open for public consumption. So hopefully that answers your question, Mark. Like we have community centers that have indoor space as well. And we've got churches that operate out of them on occasion. We've got teen groups that come through there too. So it just depends on who wants to use it and when it's available. But at the end of the day, again, it's for the public.
And we do have other facilities that are managed by private companies. So they're leased out and managed by private entities. However, they're still open to the public, right? So for example, Whaley House in Old Town is a county property that is leased out to Old Town Trolley. They manage it and it's open, so the park is open to the public, and the facility as well, that's fee-based. And so the funding, the revenue from those go back into the Parks Department to continue to manage and operate our parks. And this will be the same. It will stay within Heritage Park so that we can continue to maintain that facility.
Great, thanks, Christine. I know I didn't really, I forgot right there on property. We've got multiple, even at waterfront, right? The snack bar, all of those kinds of things that all fit back into our revenue to continue to make park improvements and offer free programs for San Diegans. So great, thank you. All right, so another great comment about parking from Patricia. Can we include all these different considerations we've been discussing for after hours parking? Absolutely. Everything that's been shared here today is part of the feedback that helps shape the plan moving forward. So this is definitely noted. I know Christine's taking avid notes about operational updates for when this park officially opens, but thank you again for your feedback there. I'm sure we'll be looking a lot to this as we formulate the operational and the security plan. Okay, here's a really good question from Tracy. I'm curious about this too. Do any of the houses provide a kitchen space for a caterer to use? Like, it's probably a Chelsea question.
Yes, just looking for my mute button, that pesky thing. Yes, so we do not currently have, thanks for that email, but there's no existing kitchens that are going to be available for commercial use. That does get a little bit tricky, right? When we have a food being prepared on site and then having it be served on site. So we don't have any kitchens for commercial use for catering or something like that. And then we won't have any like fully functioning kitchens available as part of our overnight accommodation rooms either. So we're still working on, what that exactly looks like, whether we're going to have mini fridges and mini fridges and microwaves or, coffee makers, all of that. But so we're kind of finalizing those details, but we won't necessarily have full cooking kitchens in the overnight accommodation sections.
All right, thank you. And hopefully you guys can see in the chat, we just posted an email address. This is for Abby. Abby is actually the community representative for the Old Town community for Supervisor Fletcher, who was here earlier tonight. So if you have any questions for him about this park, this project, anything in general, please feel free to reach out to Abby. She'll make sure to make that connection and get you the information that you're looking for. So if anybody else has questions about the park or the design plan, please continue to post them here in the Q&A section. And let's see if there's anything else in here that we might want to cover. Earlier, there was a question about a king room and what defines a king room. So maybe Chelsea, you can share what that means.
Sure, no problem. So the king room is really that there would be one king bed in the room, obviously a private bathroom associated with that, and some kind of seating and place to put your clothes, whether it's a wardrobe or a closet. But then the suite would have a larger square footage, possibly a pull-out couch or something that's a little bit more luxurious than the standard king room. Okay. Ooh, here's a good question about pets. So I know pets are always, welcome in our parks. We've got that six foot leash law just to make sure, your pets are safe in all the properties that we manage. This question is saying, are we going to be looking at embracing pet friendliness at this facility for overnight stays? That is an operational question. So I'll hand that one over to Christine.
It is, and the answer is to be determined. Maybe it's something that is some of the rooms are pet friendly and some are not. So that is again to be determined. We'll figure that one out. But that's a great point. I hadn't considered it yet.
Great reason to have these public meetings, right? We get all kinds of interesting comments and feedback that can help us determine that. Okay, and then for my own curiosity, what types of plants and trees are we looking at planting there at this property? So great question. We have a large range and we actually, some of our DPR folks, we are passionate about how history becomes alive through plantings. And so we did a deep dive into a variety of different plants, what you might see in a Victorian garden, and then how that intersects right with our desire to have maintenance
reduced maintenance issues, but also the watering component. So we did a deep dive into some of that historical component, and then kind of did that cross-section analysis to come up with a list of the plantings specifically. But we are not quite there yet as far as finalizing that list. So apologies for the ambiguous answer, but that's kind of where we're at in the design of finalizing that list and getting that ready for our bid package for construction documents.
Great, thank you. Well, we don't have more questions here yet. I'll give people just another chance in case there's something else that pops up. Maybe while we're checking for that, can we pull back up that timeline in case people have questions about next steps? Great, thank you. So right here, we're looking, next up is board hearing December 14th. All right, and then information about all of the events that we host will be posted to our website, stparks.org/public meetings. We typically, or we do share them as well on our Facebook page, on our Twitter account, and on Instagram. But for those who are not on social media, the information is always posted to our website. That is where we're going to be sharing the recording of tonight's meeting and any additional information we might have discussed, including some of those graphic images. So I know there was a comment earlier on tonight about not being able to see those concept plans up close. All of that information will be shared and posted to stparks.org following this meeting. Just give us a day or two just to make sure we've got everything downloaded and then uploaded to the proper spot. But that's we try to keep everything in a single space to make it a little easier to navigate. And then any more questions that come through, absolutely contact Chelsea Jander. She is the one who knows everything about this project. And if she doesn't know, she knows exactly who to talk to. So here's her email address and her phone number. Let me just see if there's any more questions that popped up. Tracy's asking if final construction should be spring 2024 for the start instead of 2023 for the start.
So start construction in spring of 2023 and completion in spring of 2024.
Great, thank you for that clarification. All right, well, looks like that was the last new question that came through. Thank you for the compliment, we appreciate that. I'm going to hand it back over to Chelsea, but it's been a pleasure serving as your Q&A host for this evening. Thanks so much and have a wonderful evening.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessica. And thank you everybody who's still hanging on here. Thanks everybody to the team for answering all those great questions. My contact information is on the screen now. So if you have any follow-up questions that you'd like, or you want to just reach out to me directly, feel free to do that using the information on the screen. But it sounds like we're all wrapped up. So thanks everybody for attending and have a great rest of your evening.